Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And yes, we're cutting right back into the mini-series in regards to Medicaid. And today we are going to be focusing on what has, like I've already alluded to, been already a shortage that has gotten worse and worse and worse since the 2010s in regards to direct care staff, and what that could possibly mean in regards to getting worse if these folks, like Elon, decides to hack into Medicaid with a chainsaw. So, I got this pulled up here. It is called the Healthcare Dive, and I will be including the link to this article, as well as the other article we are going to be reading within this one. You all know how websites work. To go ahead and get a little bit more perspective in regards to that. Because, folks, if in your head you're thinking, when you're talking more direct care staff, not community integrators like mine, but direct care staff, for folks who have difficulty in bathing, getting dressed, being able to eat, those sort of things, that is what the direct care staff is there to assist with. So, when I told you that there was already a shortage, which means that the few we do still have are overwhelmed, and that this cut is just going to make it worse, that's not even the half of it. So we're going to go ahead and read into this, but first, folks, as always with me, anything that I cover, you'll always find links there in the description box. Everything in regards to Medicaid that we are going to be going over, as well as the new series I plan to kick up after this one, regards to supplemental security income. You'll always find it in there. Trigger warnings, folks. I do have this channel marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity, and I use it very often. Sometimes, depending on the subject, with every other word. Main reasons being, army brat that was half raised by a truck driver. So if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. You don't have to watch the whole video. I would still encourage you to open the description box anyway to read it for yourselves. You have no idea how important this is, or how dangerous the ground we are treading is going to be if this goes through. So, if you're 16 and younger and watching, your kid is parental supervision, alright? Okay. Medicaid cuts could worsen home care worker shortage, KFF. States have increased provider payment rates to address workforce shortages, but they may have to cut back if spending cuts hit Medicaid, according to the health policy researcher. So remember when I told you in regards to Missouri that literally your gateway to the service system is Medicaid? No Medicaid, yeah, butt kiss, right? So in particular for states like mine, those budget cuts and the threat that is in regards to what small amount of direct care staff we still have left, and those people we barely managed to hold on to. Yeah, let's go over it, shall we? Alright. This was done back in February. By the way, Emily Olson is the reporter here. So we're going to go over the briefs real quick. Cutting Medicaid could worsen already serious shortages of home care workers in the safety net insurance program and decrease their payment rates, according to the research survey published Tuesday by KFF. Allow me to put that in layman's terms. As of right now, these folks are making just barely a little bit above minimum wage per hour. Meanwhile, their caseloads keep getting more and more piled up. Less funds means less money to be able to hire in more new, very well trained direct care staff to be able to take care of our most vulnerable of those who are disabled, elderly, or both. Okay? We're looking at a pretty bleak situation here. So when I told you guys when I began this series in regards of what will leave the services for those who really need them, no, they're not. No, they're not. Because those funds cut into the wages of an already overtired, overstressed direct care staff that we have in this country that are barely making it. Their caseloads are piled way too high. Something's going to give. Okay? Something's going to give. The question is, if you were in their shoes, if you were a direct care staff, and the state, by means of Medicaid through federal funding, were able to increase the wages at least a little bit to make things a little bit easier for you, and now you have this threat, this new sword of Damocles now officially hanging over your neck, when you're already overstressed, overworked, overtired, and overstretched thin in regards to personal finances. Imagine what's going to happen when you're dealing with an area of the workforce that has already had a high burnout rate. Okay? Now, remember who it is these direct care staff take care of. Our most vulnerable individuals in this country who do need help with bathing, who do need help with getting dressed, who do need help with assistive devices, who do need help with oxygen tanks, getting in and out of bed, getting shoes on, going grocery shopping. You hear what I'm saying, right? Those are the people that most folks are going to say, well, they're not going to be affected because they really need it. Y'all really need to start waking up. Just because they're not hitting them directly does not mean they aren't going to get hit massively indirectly, which is why I am bringing up this particular topic. Let me go ahead and continue. All 48 states that responded to the survey conducted by the health policy research firm reported Medicaid home care workforce shortages in 2024, while 41 said home care providers had permanently closed their doors in their states within the last year. I want you to think about that, folks. I want you to think about that. Providers have never been in the plenty, at least to my knowledge. And I've kind of been everywhere in regards to this topic, and I've spoken with quite a few people. Imagine if a place as big as, like, out here Nova, having to close their doors. They serve well over 100,000 folks who need exactly the type of care we were talking about here. We're talking about individuals who are getting even more overloaded as the boomer generation continues to get older and are needing significantly more help and more supports as they continue to go on. Right? You see where we're getting at yet? If you watch this channel, you probably do. If a place like ARC or Nova ends up having to shut their doors because of these cuts, particularly in states where the majority of the constituents live out in rural areas where it is already a Herculean absolute effort to get those type of services approved in the first place. It's a pretty bleak picture, folks. It's a pretty bleak picture already. This is what I meant when I told you. We never see raises in this field, we only see cuts. And it keeps getting worse every single year. Let me go ahead and continue. Increasing payment rates to home care providers is the most common method states are using to address staff shortages, according to the brief. But if House Republicans follow through on potential spending cuts to Medicaid, states may need to reduce provider pay. Now, the states trying to use what little funding that we have in places like Missouri, which are generally GOP hellscapes. Yeah. I've literally seen only one or two hourly wages go up in regards to providers, and seen them had to come cut back down both times as well because the money just wasn't there. So direct care staff shortages just keep getting worse. That's what they're talking about here. Okay? Medicaid, along with the Children's Health Insurance Program, provides coverage to nearly 80,000 low-income Americans and is likely on the chopping block for the congressional Republicans as they look to balance out President Donald Trump's promised tax cuts. Last week, House Republicans released a budget blueprint that called for the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicare and Medicaid, to find $880 billion in savings. What people don't understand is we are already, as of right now, it's been bleak for over the last decade. The amount of available direct care support folks who handle our most vulnerable has gotten lower and lower, folks. Lower and lower. All right? Those cuts required eligibility in regards to service system supports to be revised already. Having multiple individuals who very desperately actually do need supports out in the cold, while the other side on the cuts continues to add to the shortage for direct care workers who are taking care of the quote-unquote most vulnerable of us. Everybody gets hit. Nobody's left out. You can sit there and tell me that those folks who most need it will still receive services all you want to, but it's kind of hard for you to convince me that their service is going to be okay when, due to those cuts, you have providers who are closing your doors. Sure, they have money for services, but who the hell is going to provide it? Places like Missouri don't have a provider every time you take a turn around a street corner. We are not New York City. We are not out in California. We are smack dab out in the middle of the country. We've got, let's see here, current providers through the service system. We have ARC, NOVA, DCO, the Developmental Center of the Ozarks, and we've got Easter Seals. That's pretty much it. That is it. Okay? Now, when we're talking about our elderly folks, we've got two providers in regards to hospice care. Two. That covered the whole state. The whole state. That would be Mercy and Cox. Okay? Mercy and Cox. If any of these places end up closing their doors, or in the case of Mercy and Cox, if they have to back off of the Oxford program, It cut down services in regards to hospice. Let's go ahead and continue again, shall we? So the safety net insurance isn't the only program under ENC's purview. It's by far the biggest. Suggesting cuts to Medicaid could be significant, according to a post on X Wednesday by Larry Levitt, Executive Vice President for Health Policy at KFF. Reducing Medicaid spending could also significantly hit the home care workforce, as 70% of these services are paid for by the insurance program, according to KFF. And when you're looking at states like Missouri, they are the only ones. Hear me when I say this. For those of us with developmental disabilities, especially and in particular, folks with cerebral palsy, things of that nature. Hear me on this. They are the sole provider of funds when it comes to home care workforce, having direct care staff being able to come out there and do their jobs. The firm's research, which surveyed officials administering Medicaid home care programs, found provider shortages were already widespread, particularly for direct support professionals and personal care attendants. While states said they faced shortages for more than one type of provider, while 46 reported shortfalls among 5 or more provider types, according to the brief. Now, here's a look in regards to that survey. Okay? 48 states say that they currently have a shortage for home care workers. Direct support professionals, the folks who work through ARC, NOVA, DCO, or Easter Seals. Sorry about that, folks. I kind of sat on my little controller then. I hope you can hear me. 48 states. Personal care attendants, 48. Nursing staff, 47. Home health aides, 47. Case managers, 42. Certified nurse aides, 41. Community-based mental health providers, 37. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech providers, 32. Those are some scary numbers, folks. And this is before, keep that in mind, before the cuts that are now being proposed by the Republicans right now. Before. This is literally the legacy and the direct results of the major cuts that took place during the 2010s. Okay? And they're about to make it worse and take even more money out of it. Okay? Look at that. Just look at it. Let me go ahead and continue here. The deficits are likely related to low wages and demanding work conditions for home care providers, worsened by staffing shortages that could force them to work longer hours to compensate, according to KFF, and that also means taking on more caseloads. Instead of working with one particular consumer, you now have to cover 10, providing all the exact, very in-depth care for all of them. 10 a day. 10 a day. Think about that for a minute. However, many states were unable to report average payment rates for all providers, given these services are often bundled together, and many states outsource this work to Medicaid managed care plans. But among those that could offer payment rate data, payments for personal care workers range from below $10 an hour to over $20 per hour. To give you some perspective on that, we'll be going over this here in just a moment, but I want to show you the numbers for my state real quick, just to give you guys a good idea in regards to what their wages currently look like right now. So I want to find the right wording here. Okay, yep, direct. I'm just going to copy it. It's going to be easier. I don't know about you, but every story I wrote for the White House, my sources were, yeah, well, that's the 90% of the time. Like, and that's how I have to do it for capital A. That's why when I was running White House coverage, I put the that is just the best way. All right, last question is, the other thing, I think I know where sort of what we're talking about, trying people like, well, okay. So out here in Missouri, what that is generally running right about now is anywhere between, depending on the provider, also your level of experience. So if you're on the lower range, a direct care support professional that's just getting started in the field makes less money per hour than I did working telesales for Wayfair. I was getting paid at the very beginning when I began working with them back in 2021. They started me at about $12.50 an hour, and then when they did the overall raise for minimum wage, they bumped me up to $15. Opening rate right now for direct care is $9.24. $9.24. Those who may have a little bit of an experience could possibly get around about $17.73 per hour. Imagine how much experience and how much you have to hang in there and wing it in order to get up to just that. Literally a couple dollars higher than me working the phones. Yeah. Alright, let me go down here. We'll take a look at this next. All surveyed states face home care worker shortages. Number of states that reported they were experiencing a shortage of each provider type. So this is every provider, folks. Every provider. Any shortage? 48 states. Direct support professionals, 48. Okay, we're kind of going through the same thing here. That's where I wanted to be. Sorry. Increasing provider pay was the most common state strategy for boosting Medicaid home care workforce. The number of states reporting each method of raising the number of home care workers. This was trying in a desperate effort to maintain those folks that we still have left. And now they want to cut more money. So, any strategy? 48. Increasing provider payment rates? 48. Developing or expanding worker education and training programs? 41. Offering incentive payments to recruit or retain workers? 38. Offering workers retention bonuses? 29. Establishing or raising a state minimum wage requirement for home and community-based service workers? 19. Offering paid sick leave for workers? 18. And having talked to multiple direct care staff, both as someone who's been through the service system, as well as having worked for my regional office, as you guys all know, when I worked for the state there. In regards to sick leave, holy crap, I don't have the exact details, but yeah. It wasn't looking good. We're talking circa 2008 to 2012, back in that time period. Meanwhile, most states are on the brink of exhausting enhanced funding for Medicaid home care provided under the America Rescue Plan Act enacted in 2021, according to KFF. So, when I told you the situation was already bleak And this was going to make it worse? Yeah. Yeah. The vast majority of the additional $37 billion in federal funds went toward workforce recruitment, retention, and training. 30 states surveyed by health policy research firms said their top priority was keeping higher provider payment rates spurred by new money, far surpassing other options like adding or expanding services or limiting wait lists for home care. Right now, their priority is trying to retain the workers that they currently have. And the reason is, without those workers, pretty much everything else, well, you can kind of see where I'm coming from that there, right? Yeah. Okay, so we kind of went through this page here, and we are going to go again and go right back up where we were. And this was what I was going to pull up for you all. All right, so we'll actually probably open this one up and go over it next weekend. I'll bookmark it here so that we can go in a little bit more in regards to direct care staff. We're going to be going into other areas when it comes to Medicaid as well. I want people to know exactly what is at risk, because sure as hell, Elon Musk does not know. Donald Trump does not know. And the people around them do not know. And even if they did, they don't fucking care. But you should. There's power in numbers, folks. We need to let these people know what's at risk. And we are not going to allow them to make an already bleak situation worse. And on that note, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out for today. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please, folks, don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to utilize the comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I will see you next Saturday with the next part of the mini-series. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, son.